let's select this high-resolution mesh and add the Remesh modifier to it. It will default to the voxel option, but let's start by looking at the blocks setting. The first setting under blocks is the octree depth. An octree is a structure for partitioning spatial data in 3 dimensions, in which each iteration increases by a factor of 8. A grid is generated based on the octree depth and the longest dimension of the mesh, in this case, its height. The depth is set very low to begin with, so the approximation of this statue appears as a handful of large cubes inside the volume of the original mesh. As we increase this number, it will represent the mesh in higher resolutions, and the cubes appear to get smaller because the ratio between this statue's height and the resolution of the ever-increasing density of the grid decreases each time by a factor of 8. You can also reduce the scale of this factor, which results in larger blocks. I'll reset this to its default. Remove disconnected simply means any part of the mesh which falls outside of the threshold set will not be included in the final result. Let's reduce that threshold now to demonstrate. As we approach 0, the disconnected piece will now be included once the ratio is small enough. And finally, there is a smooth shading option. For those of you wondering why there is, it is because this tool can be used to quickly retopologize a mesh in preparation for sculpting. Speaking of smooth, let's look at the next option along. Smooth has all the same controls as blocks, but instead of generating a grid of cubes, it will retopologize the mesh to the closest approximation of quad geometry based on the octree depth, scale, and threshold. Increasing the octree depth will result in a denser mesh, but overall you lose definition due to the smoothing out of sharp edges. The next setting is sharp. This setting will take into account areas such as we see here along the hairline, where angles between faces shouldn't be smoothed out. Sharp has all the same controls as the previous 2 options, but also has a control for sharpness. A higher setting will create an effect closer to the original mesh, and lower settings will be less accurate. Finally, we have the option to recalculate the mesh using voxels. The density is measured in scale units instead of ratios. The smaller the voxel size, the denser the result. So if you wish to retopologize for a lower vertex count, it's a good idea to increase the voxel size. The adaptivity will calculate less topology where the surface is smoothest, and denser topology where it is more detailed. This option will create poles and triangles as the mesh transitions between areas of varying detail.